Okay, this is a second video on the F-18 Hornet to show more of the navigation systems. So to show that off, I'll go ahead and do a Case 3 approach and landing on a carrier. The carrier is in motion again at about 11 knots. It's using TACAN channel 30 X-ray with carrier instrument landing system on channel 2, COM channel 127.5. I'll do one turn in the marshalling stack on a bearing of 30 degrees off of the heading of the carrier. I'll fly in at 10,000 feet, 250 knots to exit the marshalling stack. I'll descend down. I'll do about a 12 DME arc around to the final course of north, and then I'll pick up the instrument landing system and try and do a landing on the carrier. So I'll talk us through it as we go. So let's start off by getting ourselves level at 10,000 feet. So I'll turn on the autopilot. Get ready to hit barometric altitude at around 10,000 feet. So that's about 10,000 feet right there. I'll switch this over to the FCS page so it's not annoying me. We'll put the HSI up on here so it's easy to see. Let's go and turn it on the TACAN with the TCN here. Let's zoom in so it's easy for you guys to see. TACAN, we'll turn it on. 30, enter. You can see X-ray to default, so that's already set. And then we'll put the TACAN onto our HUD. So we put a course in, put in 030, enter. And there's our course bearing there. We're 25.9 miles away, so I want to be at about 25 miles when I hit it, so I'll turn inbound here. When I cross the radial, you can see here, that's the TACAN right there, that's the boat. When I cross that radial, I'll head out at 210 for 10 miles, so when I get to 35 miles, I will turn inbound on this and head in on the carrier bearing right there of 210. So our first heading is going to be 210, so I'll set my heading select marker to 210, enter. And then as soon as we cross that, you can see it's coming down right now in the HUD. This shows it's about 1 dot off, so when it crosses there, I'll go ahead and turn to a heading of 210 by hitting heading select on my autopilot. So there it is, I'm crossing right now, heading select. Now it's going to turn me out for a parallel heading. These are 10-mile legs, so then I'll turn back around and come in on it. Then at 25 miles I'll start my descent, and then I'll arc around and come in from due south, catch the carrier. So I'm going to go ahead and start to slow down now. Go ahead and set our radio frequency. So I'm rolling this with the mouse wheel to set it to a manual frequency. It's at 305 right now. I'll set 127.500, enter. And that allows me to call up to Stennis and say I'm inbound.
Marshall 010, marking ops 232, 27, Angels 10, state 10.1.
So that's basically a vector straight for the carrier, but I'm in the marshalling stack, so I'm going to fly the procedure. So I'm going to head outbound on heading of 210 when I hit 35 miles from STN, which is the Stennis frequency. And then I'll set my heading to 030 to head inbound in a left turn, and I'll slow down to be 250 knots. Right on the radial at 25 miles is the goal. There's 35 miles. So I'll crank this over. I'll set this to 040 right now. A little bit of an intercept. Pull the throttles to idle. When I get to 250 knots, I'll engage the auto throttle to hold me. I'm going to turn the landing light on. And get the hook down. Okay, still turning inbound. Okay, looks like we're going to be plenty. So I'm going to roll this heading out for an intercept. I'll head east for an intercept heading. Pick up the inbound radial. Here comes 250 knots. Auto throttle. Here again is the ATC for the auto throttle. That'll hold 250 knots. We're almost 2 dots off, so we're going to intercept this course with the goal of being 10,000 feet, 250 knots, 25 nautical miles, right on the radial. Here you can see our scale is set to about 40 miles. So that shows the Stennis is just under 40 miles, which makes sense because it says right here it's 37.8. Alright, everything's working nice. We're intercepting the course. By the inbound leg of the marshalling stack, just from 35 miles to 25 miles, right on the radial. And start our turn inbound. And we'll set this to 030, enter. So we'll see when we roll out where we are. We'll be slightly right, so I'll probably put in just a few degrees of heading correction. So the way I will fly this is at 25 miles, I will start my descent out of 10,000 feet. I'll do about a 4,000 foot per minute descent at 250 knots. When I get to 5,000 feet, I will shallow that out to about 2,000 feet per minute. My goal is to do about a 12 DME arc, so at about 15 nautical miles, I'll do a right-hand turn to about 120 degrees to start that arc. I'll reset my course inbound to 000, and about 15 degrees before I get there with the bearing pointer, I will start my turn to intercept the inbound. I'll level off between 12 and 1,300 feet, and then I'll pick up the ICLS. And when I'm on glide slope for the ICLS, I'll be configured, and then I'll hand fly the ICLS down to the landing. So that stuff comes fairly quickly, so I thought I'd brief it ahead of time. But yep, so I'm using the TACAN channel for range and bearing. I have the scale I can use on the HSI here. So I've just lowered that now to 20 nautical miles. Zoom in there so you can see that. Scale 20 shows the TACAN right there symbol about 20 miles out. There's 27 miles out. At 25, I'm going to start that descent. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to turn off the auto throttle, go to idle power. I'll keep the heading select in for the autopilot, but I'll turn off the barometric altitude, and then I will start this descent at about 4,000 feet per minute, but the heading select of the autopilot is still going to fly the heading. I'm a little bit left course now, so I'm going to add in a few degrees of correction there. So that's about 4,000 feet down. So let's correct back. Get on the bearing. So we're in idle power. about 4,000 feet per minute. You can see the feet per minute is right here above my altitude. About 250 knots. At 4,000 feet per minute, I will accelerate above 250 knots, and I will start to get my nose up a little bit. Add in 1 more degree correction. Use a little bit of speed brake. Get my speed back down below 250. Okay, there's 250. Coming up on 5,000 feet, 21 miles out. At 5,000 feet, I will shallow my descent about 2,000 feet per minute until I get down to that 12 to 1,300 feet. And remember, at about 15 nautical miles is where I want to start that arcing maneuver. A little more speed brake. Back down 250. That's 5,000 feet of altitude, so I'll go ahead and bring my nose up a bit.
Altitude.
I'll hit my auto throttles again to hold my airspeed here. A little bit more nose down would be good. It's about 2 miles before I want to make that arcing turn. And I will do that with my heading marker again, so I'll move that off to the right to a heading of about 120 when I get to 15 nautical miles. Sending through 3,700 for 1,300. Getting close. I'm going to nose up just a little bit because the nose tends to drop when I start this turn. So now it's time for the turn. Hold that over to the right. 1, 2, 0, enter. I'll back on the stick a little bit just so I don't descend too much. So get that up around there. A new course inbound. It's going to be 000. So I'll go ahead and enter that in now. You can see I'm turning so that I'm basically perpendicular to the boat. Arcing around. When the bearing pointer is at about 15 degrees out or so, it's not level off. Let's keep this descent coming. So I'll push forward on the stick a little bit. And then I'll start my turn inbound. 2,500 for 1,300. Okay, we're a little outside the arc, so I'll start a little bit of a turn here. I don't want to descend too much. Okay, now let's start that turn. Inbound. Set this to 005 for an intercept. Here comes our altitude, so we'll get ready to capture our altitude between 15 and 1,200. Barometric altitude hold. Okay, course is coming across, so now I'm going to go over here. I had TACAN turned on to show it up on the HUD. Now I'll switch to put the ILS information up on the HUD. Make sure my ILS is on channel 2, enter. Okay, so there's my ILS indication. It says I'm pretty much perfectly centered, which is very nice. I'm lucky. So I will come left a little bit to stay on course there. And I'll zoom in here and you can see there's the boat out there. And it's moving a little bit from my left to right, so I do want to have my heading be a little off to the right of it to maintain course. So here we are, 250 knots. I'll go ahead and start to slow down. Turn off the auto throttles. 1,300 feet is very nice. It's going to be about a 3-degree glide slope in. Drifting a little left, so I'll add in another degree of heading correction. Throw the auto throttles back on again here at 214. So now we see the glide slope indicator coming in. So I'm going to kick off the autopilot, kick off the auto throttle, throw the gear down, throw the flaps down. Flaps are going to make me tend to balloon, so I'll put a little forward pressure on the stick. Allow the airspeed to bleed down. Bringing in some power. So now I'm going to start trimming up until I have my on-speed indication. So trimming up, controlling the power. There you go. Just about there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Making sure I've got enough power so that my
010. Overhead Angels 1. State 9.0.
sure that my velocity vector is above the boat until I'm on glide slope. You can see glide slope is just about to line up with my vertical velocity. So now that it's lined up, we'll pull the power enough to line up with the boat. Now I'm just using power corrections and flying the needles. Keep my ILS nice and lined up. You'll notice I'm slightly off to the right because the boat is moving from my left to right. So to stay perfectly on course, we'll need to lead it just a little bit. Okay, looking pretty good here as far as my ICLS. There's my radar altimeter 500-foot warning. Okay, call the ball. It's green. Things looking very nice.
Power, Roger. BRC, St. Louis, Charlotte. 010.
Alright, hook, gear, flaps. Things looking pretty good. Full power, but we captured the wire, so that's a good landing. A little slack get in, nose wheel high, and rotate out of the way of anyone else coming in. Clear carrier. So those are that's the TACAN, ICLS. Showed using the HSI over here, TACAN and ILS settings, the scale, the course and heading, and use the autopilot again. So hopefully that's some useful information. Thanks a lot.